Retouching. Okay, let's go on your beautiful lady here and see about that. I'm going to zoom in so we can see what's going on, and I'm choosing to start at her chest. What I would choose to use here is the patch tool. She's got quite a bit of acne going on in various areas, but I would take a small area like that, for instance, and pull it and just start that way and kind of get rid of these areas of the larger blemishes. So we're just kind of pulling all these areas into an area that's going to be a lot more pleasing and flattering. Oops, I don't want to go into the blue. So like that. And as you get more and more, then you have more and more skin, more and more good skin to drag it into. So that's a really nice way to start. Start small and then go as large as you want. The only thing you have to worry about is, like in this area where you've got to drop off to the shadow, it can become a little too harsh if you aren't careful. So the rest looks pretty good down there. So that's her chest. Up here, the larger blemishes, I'm going to switch to the spot healing brush and just dab away at those, and just to minimize them a little bit in any of those larger spots. So just getting rid of anything that really kind of pops out. You do not want to usually dab away freckles or anything permanent. It's the stuff that comes and goes that you want to get rid of. Because anything permanent, unless they ask you to, unless a client asks you to, that's part of them. So you don't really want to make it not look like the person that you photographed or that you're working on. So that might be up there by her eye, might be a spot to leave alone. And there we go. She's really, really pretty. Okay, while I'm here, I'm going to zoom in and just add a little sparkle to the eyes. Usually, see the catch light in her eye there? Usually right across the iris, it's a little bit lighter. You've got a little bit of light here, but not all that much. So I'm just going to touch that with the dodging tool, kind of add just a little bit of light in there, and maybe even just add a little extra pop to that sparkle. And I'm at the dodge tool at 32%, so I'm not doing a ton here. One thing I am going to do, we're kind of losing detail in the shadow over here, so I'm going to take this into Camera Raw filter, bring out the shadows just a bit to kind of get that area there, a little bit of detail back in that. It shouldn't affect much else, just kind of the deeper shadows, but that looks to me a little bit better. Very, very good for doing that. The other option is to come into image adjustments and shadows and highlights. That's pretty aggressive, as you see. You can bring it down though, and that works really well too. So either one of those will work to give you a little bit of an increase in shadow detail. I think I might actually go back and add a little bit of that, but just a little bit, maybe only like 6%, 5%, somewhere in there, just kind of brighten the whole thing. So kind of taking care of the bigger pieces. We have these little divots on her cheek, so I'm going to go back into the patch tool here and look for areas where she's got nice smooth skin. And face skin is made up of several different textures. The texture around the eyes is slightly different than the texture anywhere else. The texture of her forehead is going to be smoother than the texture on her cheeks usually. So you can kind of use those areas, but you have to be a little bit careful about that. So that looks pretty good. So now we've kind of smoothed out the forehead. Let's come in and see if we can smooth out the cheek by dragging that right up there, the same spot. So, and that's clear now, so I can use that as my healing area. She's got a little bit of a dark area there, so I'm going to bring it down here, soften that a bit. Okay, she's looking pretty good right now. So the other thing I would do She has massive goosebumps over here on her arms, so I don't think she probably would want those showing on her picture, and I would actually smooth her skin out more. There's a couple of things you can do. I'm going to copy and paste this layer over itself, so right there, and then I'm going to go up to Filter, Stylize, and Oil Paint Filter, and I've got the cleanliness set pretty much at max, the scale set at max. The stylization is down pretty low. It's only, doesn't even need to be that high, maybe a 1. And bristle detail's low because I'm smoothing her skin, so I don't really want detail. I do maybe want stylization up, maybe about it, maybe about a 1.5 there. And I'm going to click OK. It's going to mess with her eyes a bit. So I'm going to just erase those, and then we'll be able to see through to the layer below. And if I need to do any other areas to kind of get rid of any kind of distortion, I actually like what it's doing to her hair, but I'm going to bring it down about 50%. So I'm setting my eraser tool to 50%. It's not going to get rid of all of it, but some of it. Same on her braid here. And that looks pretty good to me. So, so we've kind of smoothed everything out there. You could stop there, but personally, I'd add another layer and come in with the brush tool, the mixer brush tool, blank layer up here. Make sure I have sample all layers checked in the options bar. I started with a wet preset, but changed the setting to 20 wet. So the load's 50, the mix is 50, but the wet's only 20. And then I can come in and kind of do circles around her forehead. And I'm picking up the mouse in between so I don't drag too much dark into light and vice versa. And I'm just going to continue to do some of that over her whole face. And I can soften the kind of dark under her eyes that way. I can soften that shadow that way. I can take out that extra eyebrow, long eyebrow lash there. Eyebrow hair, I guess. I don't know, whatever it is. And I'm going to leave her laugh line alone because that is a nice indication of her features, and just kind of come in. This area that's lit, I'm going to leave that by just dragging, but just very gently. Same here. I don't want to lose her features and the way she actually looks. And then down here, just small circles. And you don't really have to cover everything, but just enough to kind of bring everything into a little bit more softness. You could come in, yeah, I'm going to get the tip of her nose too, just go down in size. She's very pretty, by the way, gorgeous model, or friend, or whoever she is. I'm going to touch her lips just to give those a bit of extra softness, and right there, and then switch to a bigger brush and just go lightly over her chest area here. See how it just smooths stuff out, gets rid of some of the goosebumps that we have around here and there. And this is a bigger area, so it's a little easier. Her arm, I'm going to select her arm first. Come in, oops, I want to be on the layer below to select it. I just don't want to have to worry about, going into areas that should not be smoothed or don't need smoothing. So I'm just making a selection here, going back up to my painting layer, and then again to the brush tool. I can be pretty big about this as far as brush size go, and just go down and smooth out all those bumps and all the little changes in her skin that she may not want to see. Remember to leave the little details like the bump on her wrist that indicates dimension, and like the shadows and stuff. We don't want to mess with those. So you just use shorter strokes on those if you need to do that. And back over here, leave the creases in her elbow, and there we have it. So that would be what I would suggest. So, and as I zoom out, this area seems a little red, so I'm just going to drag a little extra paint over that. And up here, I'm going to pop a little bit of a before and after there, zoom out. So there's our before, there's our after, and she is looking pretty marvelous. If you want to have a little bit more texture in the skin, drop the opacity down just a bit, maybe to 80%, and you'll start to see the texture come back. If you have somebody that has so many issues with their skin, and like there's a little stuff going on there, so I'm just going to bump in there. So many issues with their skin that you just really kind of have to start over and paint skin. You can add a bit of noise, or you can make a skin texture pattern and use that in your layer styles. So I'm going to merge these two layers together. Remember, I got the eyes out of this, so I'm going to put everything together in one layer. So that's the after, that's the before. So she looks pretty gorgeous there, and it's still recognizably her. And to add back in skin texture, if you wanted to add more texture, I don't know if I have it in here, but I did it, I think, in my other computer. But maybe, I mean, just take a picture of a nice area of skin on somebody and load it in as a texture, and then put it in with soft light load or overlay mode, and just take it off of everything that it doesn't belong on. In order to do that, I don't have a skin texture in here, but in order to do that, let me just show you the steps. I'm going to use that. There we go, a little bit pebbly texture. And there's soft light, and then bring it down, maybe like that, and bring it way, way down, and see, now we've got a little bit of skin texture in there. And in order to take it off the places that you don't want it, remember, you can create layer. That's Control on the Mac, right click on the PC, and go to create layer. Then you can put a layer mask on everything that you don't want it on, and which in this case would be better to start with the black mask and just paint it in with the white brush wherever you want it. So brush, and put it in normal blend mode and 100%, and then I can brush it in wherever I want skin texture. So it's pretty easy. And that's how I would do a retouching job like this.